was ordained a bishop back in 2010. The diocese had been without a bishop for 2 years. When they told me to go to the diocese as bishop, my family and all my friends asked me, "How can you possibly go?" Because my diocese, the city of Mosul, was the most dangerous city for Christians after 2003. They have killed a bishop, a diocesan priest, and more than 5 deacons. Many people have been kidnapped, and then later, they've always been killed. The majority of Christians in Mosul have had to flee. When I went in 2010, it was a small community. They were very afraid, and because of it, had closed themselves off. I saw this community, and I began to live with them, which was very good for them. All of them thought that I wouldn't live in the city, but was somewhere else. But I've always lived in the city of Mosul. It was very dangerous because the Islamic extremists control everything. I began to live with this small group, and it was a real joy for me. Because I saw that little group was brave enough to live with this faith in spite of the difficulties. I began to tell them, even if we have to die tomorrow or the day after, it is necessary to live today well. That is why it is necessary to love, to live each moment of the day that is in our hands with strength and courage. This gave a great strength to the Christians of Mosul. We celebrated our feast and celebrations always with courage, without fear. Once, on Good Friday, no one could leave the house because there were shootings. I'd gone to the church with the police car, thinking that there would only be 1 or 2 people, but the church was half full. Little by little, people started arriving. I asked them, "How did you get to church with these shootings going on?" They told me that they had walked a half hour or an hour to get to the church. When the army saw that there were children, young people, families without any protection, they brought them in their cars to the church. You cannot imagine how dangerous it is for a Christian family to walk down the streets of Mosul. So we celebrated that Good Friday with the church full of people. This is our faith, the faith that knows no fear. Because all of us will die, if not today, then tomorrow or the day after. The problem isn't dying, the problem is how to live today. And that is why today, after the terrorists have kicked us out of our city and towns, we are still happy. It is the first time that Mass is not celebrated in Mosul in almost 2,000 years. We celebrate Mass even in a tent. Yes, we have lost our churches in Mosul, but we have the people, the faithful, who are still alive. The church of the people, of living men, not of stones. That is why we are trying to return to our city, but if not, we can live wherever, in any part of the world. But this is our land. We've been here for 2,000 years and we want to continue. We know that there are a lot of obstacles to us being there, but it is necessary to confront these challenges with bravery. We are not afraid. If we have enemies that don't want us to live in one place, well, we can live in another. We are not afraid to say that we are Christians. Can you imagine that 120,000 fled in one night from the villages, from Mosul, and have walked almost all night to reach a safer place? I have seen families with small children who walked all night, and when they finally arrived, they were tired because they had lost everything. But none of them said, "Where is God?" There was a young couple who had 2 children. One of the children was handicapped. They had walked almost all night to reach where I was. They were very tired, the children were crying, but the parents said nothing more than to give thanks to God that they were safe. This is our faith. That is why we want to remain in a land that is our land, in spite of the difficulties. But to remain here, we need your help. I'm not talking about material help, because the most important help, most effective for me, is when you remain faithful and maintain your belief. We are very worried for you. We are not worried about our situation, but about this society which is losing its faith. I see more fear in Western society. I only want to say that it is not necessary to be afraid. If you are brave, strong in your faith, in this society, then we too will be strong. Our dramatic situation is something positive that unites us all. We've just realized that there are other Christians who are in need of being true Christians. We really thought that in the West everyone was Christian. But when we discovered that that wasn't true, that there are many who don't live their faith, there was, we could say, a strong sense of disappointment.
The
current situation of the Iraqi Christians is very dramatic because all the Christians from the city of Mosul, which is situated in the Nineveh Plains, and they total about 120,000 people, all of them are refugees in northern Iraq. And northern Iraq is mountainous. The climate is very harsh in wintertime. They are living in a very dramatic situation. Most of them actually live either in a school or in the catechism classrooms. Some of them live in tents. Others live in prefabs that we set up for them. What happened was that the Islamic State militants have occupied the entire city of Mosul, the Nineveh Plains, and the Iraqi military has failed. In other words, they ran away. They didn't confront them. They all escaped. And these militants have taken control of that entire zone where the majority of the people who lived there were Christians.
Dove la maggior parte delle persone erano cristiani.
We have to work hard. Not just some, everyone is needed. The entire international community, the Iraqi government, the factions, the different ethnic groups that are in Iraq. They should all work together in order to overcome this terror, this Islamic State. If they all would unite against these Islamic militants, we could surely win. Now they all find themselves in a situation, as we could well imagine, of a family without anything, without work, without a house, without even a future. They are saddened by this situation. They've lost trust, trust in our country, trust in other people, even trust in the future. On the other hand, they trust God very much. They have this trust in God, that God will not leave them wherever they are, in any part of the world they find themselves in. They always remain faithful to God. They could all have stayed at home and converted to Islam, but none of them, not a single one, none of them have converted to Islam. For the first few days, the first few weeks, their situation was very difficult because they slept wherever they could, even on the floor. But as time went by, we have been able to organize a few things. We even made some small churches out of tents in the refugee camps. Now when we go to Mass on Sunday, the tents are really filled with people. When you live in a situation like this, with people who are so brave like these, you cannot be afraid. I know two elderly women who are close to 80 years old. One of them is 80 and the other is 75. They stayed behind in a small house. After everyone else had escaped and they all had left, these two women, because they were quite elderly, remained at home. The ISIS militants came. After 20 days had gone by, the militants discovered that there were two women in that house. They went to talk to them. They asked the women, "What are you?" And they responded, "We're Christians." "Why are you here?" "This is our house." "Very well. In order for us to let you stay here, you must convert to Islam." One of the women replied, "Why don't you convert to Christianity?" And as they told me, they were talking with these women for an hour. When they threatened the women, saying, "We're going to kill you now," the women answered, "We all die. You are also going to die someday." Finally, in the end, they told them, "Get out of here." They let them go and the women came to where we were. They told us this true story and it touched me a lot. The entire Western world is in danger because so many kamikazes have come to us. So many militants, Islamic State militants from Europe, from the US, from Australia. These people pose a great threat. These people were born into a Muslim community here in Europe, and therefore this westernized Islamic community is the source of their fundamentalist ideas. Right now we are afraid of that, because if we can't find a solution so that these people can go back to their homes, for sure in the future, maybe not in the near future, but perhaps in the future there won't be any Christians. Yet I believe that a solution will be found for this situation.
Penso che ci sarà una soluzione anche per la situazione.
First of all, it is our homeland, our house, our country. Before the Muslims arrived, we were there in our land, before any other religions arrived. Moreover, the Christian presence has always played a vital role in Iraqi history, above all in the fields of education and health.
i
Christians
cristiani
have always
sempre
been
erano
well-educated
persone
people.
molto educate,
They had many
avevano
schools.
tantissime scuole
They carried
che
out their
facevano
mission
la
through
loro
schools
missione
and through
attraverso le
hospitals.
scuole e attraverso
This is
gli
the church's
ospedali.
mission, is it
E
not?
quindi la missione della
It's not so
Chiesa
much about
è
preaching to
questa, no?
others about our faith,
Non di
as it is
far
about
predicare
creating
agli
a
altri
more
della nostra
human
fede,
society
ma di
through our
fare
presence.
la società più umana attraverso la nostra presenza.